girl, what you watch? Look what you watch. Know what you watch. Choose the right thing to watch. And this enough to watch. Sticky Stucky Sweet TV with Keith Gog on Facebook and YouTube. And that enough to watch. The movie star fly take off from Palpatine TV said that. Boom!
A big sound, a big tune.
Ja holy Emmanuel I, boy. Ja Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. Well, Gideon go busting out them head again. So much oppression poor people face right now. Them crying out for freedom. Them crying out for free speech. Then said them want to stand up like them black liberators, like Malcolm X and Martin Luther and the ancient monarchy will come pave the way, sir. Free up black people from me tear down them fence, yeah. Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon, well, the Gideon go busting out them head. I listen, I the power of the Trinity. Give us the teaching of His Majesty, and we know war, not every...
Blue, Mr. Gargan, blue. Blue till me dance up me toe.
This is Sticky Stucky Sweet TV with Keith Gargan. Good, healthy food with the X Factor. So give it a like, share, subscribe, and touch up that notification bell. And that is it. Look at that.
Deliver me from my enemy, my God. Set me an eye from those who rise up against me. Deliver me from the workers of iniquity. Save me from the bloodthirsty men. For behold, the lion wait for my soul. The mighty gather themselves together against me, not for my disobedience, not for my sin, Lord. I have done no wrong, yet they are ready to attack me. Rise up, behold, and help me. You, Lord God of armor, the God of Israel, rouse yourself to punish the nation. Show no mercy to the wicked, traitor, sealer. They return at evening, howling like dogs, and prowl around the city. Behold, they spot with their mouth, so they are in their lips, for they say, Who art us? But you, Lord, laugh at them, you scruff of all the nation. O my strength, I wish for you, for God is my high tower. My God will go before me with his loving kindness. God will let me look at my enemy in triumph. Don't kill them, or my people may forget. Scatter them by their power, and bring them down, Lord, our shield. For the sin of their mouth and the words of their lips, let they be catched in their pride. For the curses and lie which they utter, consume them in wrath, consume them, and they will be no more. Let them know that God rules in Jacob to the ends of the earth. Selah. At evening let them return, let them howl like a dog, and go around the city. They shall wander up and down for food, and wait all night, if they ain't satisfied. But I will sing of your strength, yes, I will sing aloud of your loving kindness in the morning. For you have been my high tower, a refuge in the day of my distress. To you, my strength, I will sing praises, for God is my high tower, the God of my mercy, Selah. up and running, up and gunning. Sticky Stocky Sweet TV, Keith Gargan, cassava, man over matter. We up and running. So right about now, there some I say, see something I go on a parliament there and a peer recycling thing, the JLP them depend, them just run out of steam. And I tell, other that me I talk about the other day, same thing where Lambert I say, So peer repeat and recycling. Things we hear 10, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And them keep on talking the same thing and nothing are done. Peer foolishness. So we see Lambert come and just mash them up. And young PMP senator mash them up and appear them the street. You see Dora, the one who call herself education minister. She look like she's stunned because she just a balloon blow up and then it just bust and go that's she, So yeah, young PMP senator them bore some one of them. But so I set it and see what go on still, because it's just a load of shit when we look upon it and I say, no man, that's when I just do a thumbnail and bring it. Because in the end of the day, them people don't have no, well, we know say they don't have no moral, but what they must say, are things what them say all the while, there's nothing done, there's nothing doing, but them come with promise, groundbreaking can't fucking give people money in their pocket, they can't imply people, it's just a government photo up, it's a government propaganda and all these foolishness, but groundbreaking. From 2024 them a break ground, and all the ground of them break. The thing where they say them a go build, the place bush up back and in a woodland. And a waste, what money them cars to come with all these camera and them people to come out about groundbreaking. Boy, yeah, you make out this blood clot, then people make out me fucking tongue all that twist up, But they come with this thing all the while, about groundbreaking, this and that and rate and lele, and you never see nothing and build nothing. You just appear bag them out. And the same thing, Lambert has said the same thing. What me I say, Them recycle the same thing what them say years ago, come back and just put it in and drop some little thing on it. And that me I talk about the other day, And see Lambert come, as a senator come rascal repeat the same thing. But in the end of the day, them people are them going down, man. Because when you run out of steam, you run out of steam, And that's what government do when them in a power for long. And them, especially when them not in there legally, when them is corruption, they must fucking run out of steam. So we never got to talk nothing about where Rosalie Hamilton bust out yesterday, because there's a lot more to come. Because them start to blood clot tremble and them start to talk loose when they make no sense. Them look scared. You can't look on them and say them look scared. And that's the truth. That's the truth, no doubt about it. Their blood clot just look scared. Well, I mean, I tell you, them people are. So anyway, we get on the video and dissect it, right? And see what go on. Because, boy, them people are, make my head hurt me sometime just by listening to them and just by looking at them. Trust me. Here it goes.
Immediate. Over time, this approach could risk weakening the institution's ability to fulfill its mandate and imposing a deferred cost on future Jamaicans. I'll say it again. It's not a matter of fiscal convenience, and importantly, the reliance predates Hurricane Melissa. It was already embedded in the fiscal accounts and the framework. So it can be justified to reference the hurricane as being the reason why it's
blame
continuing.
hurricane. Fucking asshole them. Blame hurricane. Them blame every fucking thing.
Matter, Mr. President, traveling along the same lane, is the asset tax. And, Mr. President, I addressed this matter in detail in a recent debate on the legislation underpinning the measure. So I don't intend to revisit it in full today. But the point remains, the central point remains. The asset tax, like the NHT withdrawals, was introduced as a temporary measure at a particular time in our history. And it has continued unchecked with no specific feedback as to when it will be rolled back. It's now a permanent feature of the tax system. It's been extended, normalized. There is no reference, there is no certainty with respect to when it will be unwound. And it's particularly significant because everybody has accepted that the tax is distortionary. It penalizes capital formation, which, as the minister said, is very important at this time. It discourages retaining financial assets here, which is counter to his own mandate as attracting investments to Jamaica. And it's oftentimes passed on to the customers and investors who ultimately suffer. It's for these reasons, Mr. President, that the measure was originally put forward as a temporary measure, not a permanent one. Instead, now generates over $10 billion annually for the government and has seemingly become a part of the revenue base that's a permanent fixture. It reinforces the broader concern, Mr. President. And I'll say it again, when temporary measures become permanent and they're retained beyond their lifespan, they're no longer emergency tools. And there's a credibility price that is paid under those circumstances. So in other words, when the fiscal framework is relying on measures that were never designed to be permanent, is the fiscal framework really sustainable?
Yeah, I don't think that.
And again,
We
this one
government
predates Melissa. So I don't want to hear that it's because of Melissa that it's in place.
Everything a Melissa.
The next example that
Melissa,
I go
Melissa.
to, Mr. President,
COVID.
is one-offs. Right? And the most prominent among them in the previous 2 financial years were the securitizations of the revenues emanating from the concession agreements from both the Norman Manley International Airport and the Montego Bay International Airport. Mr. President, these are non-recurring transactions. Right? And, you know, when you think about the measures, Mr. President, and the numbers associated with them, it's very difficult to believe that the fiscal framework was in fact on a sustainable path. In financial year 24-25, Mr. President, $75 billion was yielded from the securitization of the NMIA revenue. And in last financial year, well, this financial year, we haven't completed March, $61 billion was yielded from the securitization. Now, let me be clear. There is nothing at all inherently wrong with securitization. Right? When properly structured, Mr. President, it is.
And me not go really bias, because what PMP, them are saying, a facts, a reality, But them just blood clot come with fiction. And some things when I make no sense, you can fucking draw them out right away. And that's all it is. Then when somebody attack, it's just word without word. Because everything these people talk, them repeat what them say years and years before. Andrew Wallace do it. That of him trademark. And at that him get away with them, this guy come talk about now. One of them say, well then, boy, the condition where he place in the West, it's like a war pass through, a pure rubble, The place looks so dirty. And in a Westmoreland, all of them places, the Trelawney, and video out there, show them things there. And them I say, well then, everything. What I tell you, them blood clot people, They just start pure fiction and pure fuckery, And you can't see it. Because remember, if them come and talk like this, I tell the labor right them, When they come to defend what this youth here say now, because they come defend it, But what them are defend it with now and attack pure fuckery and lies, the Jamaican people now feel it. Only them feel it. So that is a government, it's a talking government. Photo up government. That's all these people do. And distraction government as well. When they want to cover up something and try to do something, they will take all people's life, set place of fire to make it be a newsline editing or a news break or whatever. And people focus on that. And the fucking things that them do, them try, that we call it distraction, This is a distraction party, you know. Them everything that's fucking bad. Because them thing no hold no weight, what them a say. You can't see through it. Because if you attack, say you wanna do this and I wanna do that and this I go on. So nobody now feel it. Our people out there let me tell you something yesterday. These people, you know, brother.
Is a legitimate financing tool. Right? So
Lot
I'm
of
not
people
criticizing the
fucking up,
securitization
lot.
in enough themselves. So there's no issue in the instrument. But Mr. President, the structure and the economic substance is what I want to discuss. The transactions, Mr. President, were presented as off-balance sheet financing. It's a way to access liquidity without increasing the sovereign debt, which is fine. But when you think about the nature of the transaction and how it terminates back with Jamaica, we need to examine it. The revenues previously supported the operations of the AAJ. The concession revenues went to them. And now they're being diverted to support the securitization almost exclusively. And the result is now evident, Mr. President. The central government, per the budget, has had to step in this financial year and will be diverting $13 billion. $13 billion to be injected into AAJ to cover the agency's expenses, to include $2 billion for the construction of a new headquarters. At a time, Mr. President, when Jamaicans are being asked to absorb new taxes, the country continues to recover from Hurricane Melissa. It raises questions about priorities, Mr. President. But beyond the priorities, there is a more fundamental issue. If the government receives a large upfront inflow, as was said by the opposition spokesman on finance, effectively a salary advance, and thereafter must make recurring transfers to sustain the entity from whom the revenue was monetized, then what's the true nature of that arrangement? Right? Because it sounds very familiar, Minister Hill. It sounds very familiar. So you receive an upfront lump sum, you receive our money today, and you make payments over time. Mr. President, that sounds to me like the structure of a loan. In that sense, this thing that was presented as non-debt financing to balance the budget, in substance, resembles borrowing. Then what is it? It is, Mr. President.
To ask if you can just, you in particular, Senator Brown, give Senator Small Ferguson an opportunity to complete.
Mr. President, I'll continue. Just to reiterate my point, the matter was presented, Mr. President, as non-debt financing to balance the budget. Yet, it resembles borrowing that ultimately returns to the balance sheet of the government and by extension the Jamaican people. And importantly, this reliance on one-off transactions was evident before Hurricane Melissa. It's not because of Hurricane Melissa. These inflows of 75 billion in 1 year, 61 billion in another year, supported the appearance of a fiscal balance. But they're not durable or recurring. It reinforces the central point. The fiscal position was clearly in trouble before the hurricane. The final point I'll touch on, Mr. President, in relation to this area of my presentation, is the special consumption tax on fuel and the hedging policy, which I know those on that side don't know much about because there hasn't been any hedging in the last 10 years. The pattern has continued, Mr. President, with this special consumption tax. It was introduced in 2015 to support an insurance program that was supposed to help to protect Jamaica from the vagaries of volatility in global oil prices. I recall, I'm going to get to that, Minister Hill. I'm going to get to that. I'll say it on the mic so the public won't need to struggle to hear. It was tied at that time, Mr. President, to a clear objective. That $7 per litre that the Jamaican people pay at the pump was tied to a clear objective. And it was implemented following wholesome consultation, the same consultation that the minister just suggested with the private sector. And the objective was to reduce our exposure to oil. At that time, it was rational, it was necessary. Oil continues to be one of our major expenses, both directly and indirectly. And our reliance on it represents the most significant, in my view, source of shock for our people. The intent was straightforward, to create a form of financial protection, an insurance mechanism to mitigate the impact of adverse oil price movements on the fiscal accounts and the Jamaican people. The rationale, Mr. President, was widely understood and supported. As the PSOJ said at the time, in 2016, the cost of $20 million, which was the cost at the time to mitigate a potential $200 million risk, like insurance, makes good business sense. So you can't support insurance when it comes to disaster preparedness, but you don't support insurance when it comes to our single largest exposure. So let's not pretend like we don't understand the concept of insurance. You pay the insurance for the disaster preparedness, there is no storm, you don't complain. So if you pay the premium and oil prices move in your favor, why are you going to complain? The policy was sound, Mr. President. The only failure of the policy was that it was abandoned. And in more recent years, this government, Mr. President, has justified retaining the tax on the basis of fiscal flexibility and the ability to provide targeted relief. The former Minister of Finance, Dr. Nigel Clark, in the 2022-2023 budget debate, when gas prices and oil prices were moving in a similar direction to which they are today, indicated that the government needed to exercise discretionary interventions rather than a structured hedging framework. And that, Mr. President, is not sufficient. It does not address the central issue. The tax was introduced for a specific purpose, to fund a sustained program to protect Jamaicans from oil price volatility. Instead, the proceeds have been absorbed into general revenues, and the underlying framework has not been maintained. In effect, we've moved from structured protection to reactive intervention. The reality is that the tax is easy to collect, and it yields significant revenue. But convenience cannot be the basis of sound policy. The tax was there for a reason. It's easier, clearly, for the government to retain the tax than maintain the discipline of exercising the structured program to protect us. The consequences, however, is that the Jamaican people are left fully exposed. Mr. President, the opposition has consistently taken a clear position in relation to this. Either you remove the tax, given that it no longer delivers the intended benefit, or you restore the protection that the Jamaican people are still effectively paying for. Mr. President, the protection is necessary. Jamaica remains highly exposed to oil price shocks. We're not an oil-producing country, and our energy system remains heavily fuel-dependent. Limited diversification in the last 10 years. In effect, Mr. President, we continue to collect the premium, but we've discontinued the insurance. And now we're seeing the consequences. Since the start of the year, Mr. President, oil prices across the board are up over 60%. And they're hovering now near to $100 per barrel, well below the $60+ per barrel estimate that I understand is assumed in the budget. This is not a marginal shift, Mr. President. It's a fundamental change in one of the most important cost drivers in our economy. And while the effect on the fiscal accounts may be nuanced, because of course higher oil prices means higher revenue in some areas, but it also means higher costs. What is clear, Mr. President, is that the Jamaican people are feeling it. Right? Gas prices have gone up every week for the last how many weeks? And if things are not resolved in relation to the conflict between the US and Iran, they will continue to go. So it means Jamaican people are paying more at the pump. They're going to be paying more for electricity bills. And, Mr. President, they're going to be paying more taxes. The burden is compounded, Mr. President. It's compounded at a time when Jamaican people are still feeling the effects of Hurricane Melissa. If there was a sustained hedging framework, Mr. President, if that was in place, some of this burden could be mitigated. Instead, the resources have been diverted to other purposes. And once again, Mr. President, this predates Hurricane Melissa. Mr. President, if we step back from the individual examples and consider them in aggregate, a clear picture emerges. If we look at the last 2 financial years, Mr. President, the fiscal position was supported by one-off transactions, temporary measures made permanent, and revenue redirections. And if we look at the aggregate of just the 4 measures that I mentioned, we're looking at between $80 and $100 billion of impact on the fiscal numbers. So I say, Mr. President, even without Hurricane Melissa, I asked the question how we were going to replace the $70 billion yielded from the securitization in 24-25 and the $61 billion yielded in 25-26. The answer must be beyond just economic growth. That's nebulous. How do you replace those big numbers in the budget? Because these inflows, Mr. President, are not repeatable. The Minister of Finance on Tuesday spoke about the impact of non-recurring revenue. And I say, how would we plug this non-recurring revenue? Mr. President, I want to turn to another matter in relation to the budget, which is the proposed reforms to the financial sector framework. Mr. President, let me say from the outset that we welcome these reforms. For several years, stakeholders across the financial services sector, securities dealers, pension funds, insurance companies, other institutional investors have advocated for modernization of the regulatory framework to better facilitate capital formation and investment. Mr. President, I myself have been at the forefront of that advocacy, having led the Jamaica Securities Dealers Association for the last 3 years. Mr. President, many of the measures now being contemplated are consistent with the positions advanced by the sector during that time. So it's not a new conversation. In my contribution to the debate regarding the suspension of the fiscal rules in December, I noted that Jamaica already has a significant pool of capital at home, yet their ability to support large-scale development remains constrained, limiting how capital can be deployed and trapping resources that could otherwise be mobilized for productive use. And further, I indicated that we cannot expect a modern, resilient economy to emerge if our own rules restrain capital from participating in the very growth we seek to generate. So it's encouraging to see elements of those recommendations now reflected in the government's policy direction. But recognition of the opportunity is only the first step. So the real question, Mr. President, is whether the enabling environment will be created to translate these reforms to meaningful investment and economic growth. Because capital does not simply move because you adjust the limits. Right? Capital moves when there are credible opportunities. Money goes where it is comfortable. When there are good projects, well structured, properly risk managed, and capable of delivering sustainable returns, Mr. President. If the intention is to mobilize domestic capital at scale, then we need to ensure a few things are in place. The projects that are seeking to attract the capital must be commercially viable. The risk management associated with them, the accountability must be clear. The timelines for delivery must be credible. And the execution has to be disciplined, Mr. President. Because the experience of investors has not always reflected those conditions in dealing with the government. Let's face it, we have seen delays, cost overruns, and uncertainty in relation to government-led projects. Right? This is just the truth. Right? And those things oftentimes ultimately discourage participation, Mr. President. This is not the kind of environment where capital flows efficiently. So there is also, Mr. President, beyond the conditions and the environment, the matter of legislative follow-through. Announcements, Mr. President, need to be matched with timely implementation if these reforms are to have any real effect. And that's our job, to ensure that the legislation works. Right? And I know that there are several pieces of legislation that have been sitting on the bench for a while. I hope that the legislation underpinning these reforms do not join them. Mr. President, the opportunity here is significant, but unlocking the potential requires more than policy announcements. That's just the first step. We need more, we need action. Mr. President, I want to close to the final substantive, move to the final substantive section of my presentation. Mr. President, I want to talk about the mischaracterization of the policy framework that was delivered by the Leader of Opposition in his presentation. Mr. President, in her closing, the Minister sought to group all the initiatives that were presented by the Leader of the Opposition together and present them as though they were intended to be implemented and funded in a single financial year. Mr. President, as I am sure the Minister knew, and those on that side know as well.
Because them tell people fucking lies.
The nature of these kind of proposals.
Them just lie.
They form a part, Mr. President, of a broader, integrated policy agenda designed to be phased, prioritized, and executed over multiple financial years. This is how public policy works, as you all know. The framework contemplates funding through a combination of mechanisms. Naturally, Mr. President, there would be reallocation of discretionary expenditure in the budget. There would be improved efficiency within the public sector. There would be enhanced revenue through stronger compliance, Mr. President, a topic that seemingly bears no importance in certain circles. And where appropriate, Mr. President, targeted and sustainable external financing over time to compress them together into a single year scenario and then draw conclusions about the impact on debt, Mr. President, is not reasonable, and I'm being kind when I say it's not reasonable. If the same lens were applied, Mr. President, to the government's own agenda, particularly the range of significant projects that were announced by the Prime Minister, then the outcome would be no different if we were to cost those projects, put them together, and launch them in 1 year. We could only fund them through debt, and the debt to GDP would be well beyond the 80+% that the Minister mentioned. So let's not seek to conveniently misconstrue and mischaracterize. The policies put forward by the Leader of the Opposition were grounded, Mr. President, in the ethos of our party. The opportunity to create a pathway for all through social justice. They were intended, Mr. President, to expand access to housing, economic participation, to upward mobility in a structured and sustainable way over time. Mr. President, this is not a 1-year fiscal exercise. It's a deliberate effort to build an economy that works better for the people of Jamaica. And that's the kind of alternative that needs to be presented in a scenario like this by an opposition. It's therefore important that these proposals be taken in that context. Mr. President, in closing this contribution, I have certainly established to the objective viewer a few clear points. The fiscal pressures, Mr. President, that the country is facing existed well before Hurricane Melissa.
Of course.
That's the first thing.
Of course.
Secondly, Mr. President,
There was something to blame.
the burden that is now being placed on the Jamaican people through rising costs and new taxes is occurring in the context of that fiscal position. And there remains, Mr. President, credible alternatives in our view, grounded in better execution, improved compliance, and more effective use of the resources that are already in the system. Mr. President, the Minister has spoken repeatedly about the government choosing a path of fiscal responsibility. Right? And I've heard it repeatedly from the government, choosing a path of fiscal responsibility. But the truth is, Mr. President, for the most part, that choice was not theirs to make. Mr. President, as the former Minister of Finance, Nigel Clark himself said in March 2024, the Financial Administration and Audit Act requires that Jamaica pursue a fiscal balance derived from a formula written into law, consistent with the debt target set in the law. Mr. President, that is the point. Fiscal discipline in Jamaica is not a matter of preference or choice, it's a matter of law. It was embedded, Mr. President, through the fiscal framework strengthening under the administration led by the Most Honorable Portia Simpson Miller.
Yeah.
It was embedded, Mr. President, precisely to remove discretion and ensure that discipline would be maintained regardless of the government of the day. Mr. President, this is what underpins the current economic circumstances that the minister boasted about in his presentation. You know what else is entrenched or was entrenched during that period of fiscal reform, Mr. President? I have put in this plug. It was entrenched in the IMF deal at the time that the Bank of Jamaica would be moved to being independent. So, when you take a look at the current circumstances, even serious elements of fiscal reform were already agreed well before their implementation. The current administration is just taking their time to implement them. So the question now, Mr. President, is therefore not whether to be fiscally responsible. The question is how that responsibility is exercised and whether it's being used to support and protect the Jamaican people who are the ones who have made the sacrifice associated with us achieving this fiscal prudence. If it pleases you, Mr. President,
Thank you very much, Senator Small Ferguson. Senator Duncan, Senator, come on, engage your other microphone.
You hear me?
No, Senator Gill, engage that mic for me.
Right? That is an example of public-private partnership. We have the model. We have the know-how. Now we scale it.
Yeah,
And the capital markets and the private sector.
What know-how you
as
know?
Minister Hill indicated, must prepare themselves. And we are innovative enough in this financial sector, as Sagicor was in structuring this deal, and Burita has also in other public-private partnerships, that we have the know-how. So let us leverage this opportunity.
What fucking know-how you have? One of those fucking go sit down, man.
Let's leverage this US $2.4 billion and to be a companion to the $4.3 billion of that is funding public infrastructure, $6.7 billion US dollars available to drive growth and development, the resurgence of our Jamaican economy. Well, we went a little further than that. Senator Small Ferguson, domestic capital.
Go sit down, man. You like corruption fucking asshole, you.
You have done tremendous work.
Look at you, like a fat cat.
In leading this.
Full of corruption.
And I acknowledge that.
Senator Duncan.
Your argument have no fucking merit.
What is time done?
Go sit down, man.
Minute to wrap up.
Go and sit down. You look a fucking. I mean, when they bring you closer for. Fucking idiot.
Domestic capital.
Come with some fuckery.
Jamaica's own savings through pension funds and insurance companies. I was particularly pleased to see that, and you and I. And the recent reforms announced by the minister.
But then get them people going to put themselves to come talk, you know. Andrew Well is not blood clot, he's in and very skillful, you know.
Where the private sector can play a meaningful role.
Pay a criminal them, man.
Go forward. I'll also note that we have a listening government.
Pay a fucking criminal them over
The
there.
recent government responsiveness on the beverage tax and the environmental protection levy demonstrate that this is a listening administration, willing to make adjustments when concerns are raised, and that is to be commended. In terms of the environment that we have created, and I know that one of my Senate colleague will speak to crime, but enabling to bring down the cost of security as a country, we have done tremendously well with murder rates trending to things. So, a final call to action. I can beg you 1 minute?
Go sit down, man. Go blood clot, sit down.
I have enjoyed the budget debate.
Go sit down.
The opposition has put forward solutions and have moved away from their opposed stance, which I welcome. However, Finance Minister, the Honourable Favour Williams from Ty Dixon St. has been measured and has delivered a solid budget in her own style, along with solid gut-wrenching blows to the opposition.
Your argument and a substance, man. Go away, man.
Pencils for the next budget debate.
Empty substance, nothing there.
I have to acknowledge our visionary Honourable Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Michael Holness, the builder, was once again stepped up for Jamaica through relief, recovery, and now.
Him a really the builder for 2 years, because that him a do, him a build himself, a build out him house them, and a build. So of course he's a builder, but not the builder for Jamaican fucking people, you idiot. Where the brother you come from, man? You know where them, sure, tell us something, you know, brother. Anyway.
To our next phase of resurgence. I'm grateful for his steady hand guiding Jamaica through choppy waters.
Fucking talk about builder where?
What may, under his leadership, Jamaica will continue to move forward to prosperity for all Jamaicans, regardless of class, creed, or political affiliation. Thank you.
You should go on long time, man.
Thank
you have no fucking substantive argument. I'm not lying a fuck.
That we're trying to escape today when that sunset clause for Naira comes into effect. Mr. President, a temporary solution cannot substitute for permanent institutional reform. And fourth, Mr. President, there is a critical issue of integrity. Listen, I know you have significant challenge with this word, integrity. So listen up. Mr. President, there's a critical issue with accountability and integrity in execution. The government has indicated that NARA will have accelerated powers in relation to approvals and procurement, and FAST Jamaica will facilitate large-scale investment through expedited processes, including, in some cases, direct engagement with investors. While the speed is important, it cannot come at the expense of transparency and accountability. To be clear, Mr. President, the announcement of an oversight body and the indication that it will be chaired by a well-known professor is a positive step. He's a distinguished Jamaican with an international reputation for excellence, and his investment should be given confidence. But, Mr. President, strong individuals alone cannot substitute for strong systems.
Yeah.
Given the number of issues relating to public procurement and project execution that have been raised by the Auditor General about this particular government, the Jamaican people are entitled to a clear understanding of the guardrails, Mr. President, that will govern this new framework. We simply cannot trust them. We have seen too many issues of misappropriation. So we want clear accountability, Mr. President. What will ensure transparency in the selection of contractors? We don't know. What mechanisms will govern the treatment of unsolicited proposals? We don't know. How will the value for money, or how will value for money be independently assessed in accelerated processes? We don't know, Mr. President. And finally, what real-time reporting will be available to the Parliament and the public? Again, Mr. President, we simply do not know. Mr. President, if we are to move faster, we must also become more transparent, not less. In that regard, there are practical steps that should strengthen confidence in this framework. These should include, in my estimation, mandatory public disclosure of all NARA-approved projects and contracts, independent procurement oversight of key decision points, clear and published evaluation criteria for FAST Jamaica projects, and regular reporting to Parliament and performance timelines and execution. Because, Mr. President, we simply cannot trust those on that side with the government's treasury.
No, can't trust them at all. They want to
Mr.
mash up
President, I want to
Jamaica.
turn quickly to productivity. It's a core area of my portfolio that the leader asked me to serve as deputy spokesperson. The Prime Minister has rightly identified one of the central challenges facing our economy, and on this point, Mr. President, I agree with him. Productivity must be the core of any serious strategy for growth and improved living standards. But while the issue was correctly identified, I am not convinced that it has been fully grappled with. Because productivity is not simply about output per worker. Again, I'm an economist. I know that. It is about efficiency. We combine all the factors of production, labor, capital, technology, systems to generate value. In other words, Mr. President, we must be focused on total factor productivity. And that requires a much deeper and more coordinated policy response than what we have heard. Mr. President, what is very interesting is that I recalled in 2019, the government announced that it had developed a national productivity policy. Yet, since that announcement, Mr. President, we have heard very little
Nothing
about the status,
promising blood to government.
or impact.
Tell the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. That's what they do.
Mr. President. If productivity is indeed a priority, then that policy must be brought forward, fast-tracked and tabled in this Parliament so that the country can understand the framework being used to drive improvement. Mr. President, the Prime Minister also made a point in relation to wages and productivity, and I hear Senator Duncan taking this on. He indicated that the increases in wages must be linked to productivity and GDP growth, and that increases that are disconnected from productivity gains risk eroding purchasing power through inflation. That's a very valid and important point. But, Mr. President, that principle cannot stand on its own. It must be supported by systems, because if we are to link compensation to productivity, particularly in the public sector, then we must have a credible and transparent performance management framework that allows us to measure output, track efficiency, and reward performance. At present, those systems are not sufficiently developed to support the kind of linkage that is being proposed by the government. So while the principle is sound, Mr. President, the institutional framework required to operationalize it is still lacking. Mr. President, when we speak about productivity, we must also confront the real everyday constraints that limit the efficiency of our workforce. One of the most significant of these constraints is transportation. Trust me, it was difficult for me to come down here this morning when I left Mona. Every day, Jamaicans spend hours in traffic commuting from communities like Papine to New Kingston, from downtown to Half a Tree, from Spanish Town into the corporate area. Journeys, Mr. President, under normal conditions should take a fraction of time, are routinely being doubled and even tripled. That is not just an inconvenience, it is an economic cost. And I know some of you with your blue lights over there, you don't experience this. So because you have your blue lights to transport you, you don't feel as if you must address the challenge. Because you have your blue lights to transport you, while average Jamaicans sit in traffic for hours, Mr. President. The structure of our transport system reflects a deeper policy gap. We have seen a steady increase in the number of motor vehicles on our roads, with tens of thousands being added each year at a significant cost. At the same time, a substantial share of our fuel imports are consumed by ground transportation. Mr. President, the public transportation system remains inefficient, fragmented, and heavily reliant on private vehicle ownership, often with single occupants. Mr. President, that is not a sustainable model. And it points to the absence of a coherent, integrated public transportation strategy, one that is aligned with how Jamaicans live, where they work, and how communities are structured, and how goods and services move across the country. Instead, Mr. President, what we see is a pattern of reactive measures, road expansions here and there, adjustments right there, adjustments there, but no comprehensive framework that treats transportation as a central pillar of national development. If we're serious about improving productivity, then transportation cannot be an afterthought. It must be a core component of our economic strategy, because an economy cannot be efficient if its people cannot move efficiently. Now, Mr. President, I want to move to what I think we need to go in terms of a vision for Jamaica. Let's begin, Mr. President, by looking at the government's current strategy. They are wholly focused on macroeconomic stability. And Mr. President, I appreciate fundamentally that macroeconomic stability is an important facet to an advancement in an economy. It is necessary, but it is not sufficient. In itself, macroeconomic stability cannot propel national development and give the quality of life to Jamaicans, Mr. President. But that is the kind of one-sided, lopsided approach that is being taken by the administration on that side. Mr. President, what we need is a strategy that looks beyond that. Mr. President, what they are doing is not a complete strategy for development. It can bring, to some extent, GDP growth, but it will not result in a significant increase in incomes. It cannot improve the economic complexity of our exports. But it cannot, Mr. President, also contribute to an improvement in the real economic innovators. It can insert us in the global value chains, but it cannot and will not allow us to move up the value chain. Mr. President, moving up the value chain is exactly where we need to go as a country. So, Mr. President, that is our central challenge. The goal must be to move up the value chain. It is to diversify our markets so as to reduce our geopolitical risks. And given what is happening with Cuba, I think you kind of know a thing or two about what I'm talking, Mr. President. The only way to increase wages and on a sustainable basis to put our public finances on a truly solid footing, the only way we can do that, Mr. President, to improve health service, to make adequate future provision for national disasters, Mr. President. All of these things, to give Jamaicans an improved quality of life, is to improve that access to global markets and moving up the value chain. So what is to be done? Mr. President, there must be a collaboration between market and state. That is key. We have got to understand that our strategy cannot be reliant on market alone or the state alone. It must be both. And this is a fundamental perspective that I have throughout the entire literature of economic philosophical thinking. When I go through that, my fundamental economic perspective is that the role of the state is central. It cannot be left up to markets. So this sort of neoliberal approach that simply focuses on the private sector, excluding the coordinating and big role of the government, Mr. President, is problematic. One hand cannot clap. We need a state that has a better understanding of the needs of the private sector, because you're just skirting around the edges. You're not understanding the issues carefully. So you are misunderstanding a critical appreciation of the issue with skirting around the edges.
Them always misunderstand because they know like hear the truth.
On both sides, we agree that more needs to be done. So, Mr. President, what you need is a strong developmental state. The main reason for this, Mr. President, is that development requires, and I know you know this, given your background, development requires patient capital. This is because development takes time, more than 20 years. It's not a matter of election cycle or to which, election cycle or this time constraint between parties, Mr. President. We're talking about deep, lifelong transformation here, not about political slogans. So the need for a strong developmental state is therefore a technical requirement for development. Likewise, the need for strong, globally competitive private sector is also an absolute critical technical requirement. And this is not about ideological differences. Mr. President, if you look across the Asian economies and the development that has been sparked from the 1990s, the early 2000s, Mr. President, the state has been a clear driving force behind that. Those up north tell you that the government should stay out. But when you carefully examine their approach, they have been quietly directing industries and providing stimulus to advance their economies. So while they up north tell you to take a particular approach, if you critically examine what they have been doing, they have not been doing the same, Mr. President. So what we are saying is that there must be a big role for government going forward, Mr. President. And this is not about an overbearing state. I must clarify that. I'm not calling for an overbearing state sector. The goal here is completely different. The goal is to use the state to develop a stronger private sector, Mr. President. In one area is research and development. The extent of research and development that is needed to improve our economic complexity and the quality of our exports to drive us up the value chain cannot be sufficiently done by the private sector. Mr. President, we need the Scientific Research Council and government's allocation in that regard to be directed at looking at the quality of our exports and what needs to be improved. Mr. President, there's a lot more I can say, and I'm waiting patiently for the state of the nation debate, where we can continue to articulate how we can improve the competitiveness of our economy, because we will not improve living standards if we do not improve that competitiveness. I'm not done, a lot more, but I am mindful of the time. So, Mr. President, the fact of the matter is the budget presentation on that side has not convinced a Jamaican who is willing to be on the run in another man's country to stay in the land of their birth. I am very disappointed, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Senator Tomlinson, and we know that you are. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Senator Tomlinson. Would you allow me, please? Thank you very much, Senator Tomlinson. And we notice that you stayed within your allotted time. It is appreciated.
The virus
Senator
attack distant now.
Morris Dixon. Minister Morris Dixon.
Mr. President, colleagues,
Here is a lucky idiot
Jamaicans
you know.
watching and listening at home and abroad, I am humbled to be on my feet.
This is one little Muffet Puffet on a string. Yo, no, sir, no. Yes, sir.
To contribute to my third appropriation debate. It's three now. I want to acknowledge the Karamat students who are here. I know many of you will leave and go and work into media. We need you more than ever in the media space. We need you to tell the truth.
Which media you talking about?
To tell Jamaicans what is real and what is not. And you're going to have to be able to dispel misinformation.
Idiot woman, you fool the fuck. We are called up on the media, them don't know nothing more than we the blogger know, and people on the ground. Go sit down, man. When I try to talk about media, I don't have the media them in our pocket. The little media without Jamaica, because there's no media in Jamaica, you know. Appear narcissists and idiot them, you know. Because them under the same umbrella. And you come talk about the media. That's all these people do, you know. Just come with some little fuckery gimmicks and comedian and chat and things like that. The real media is the social media people, and why not go really have an argument with we? The dunces person can blood clot take on hand and make them look like an idiot. Because they come with some big words all the while. And that is when they come with the fool in the own supporters them, because them fool and them dunce. And we say them dunce and them really dunce the truth. Because you can dissect something and know so well then you hear something like the Prime Minister talk a word, a big word, and you don't know the fuck what it mean, but you agree with it. Then I must dunce this that. And people have some blood clot joke, you know.
Disinformation. And there is a lot of that in our country, and so we need you very.
But are you the disinformation minister? You see it? I tell you, them people, that's all them do every fucking day, you know. Play reverse psychology upon people, upon their own self, and upon people. Who the fuck them think them are? She's the disinformation minister, you know. They come with all kind of fuckery. Because she look like, say, well then, boy, that woman, may I tell you, you know, she one of the wickedest corruption in the party, where nobody no vote for her, and that make it worse with me, you know. Nobody vote for her. And Joe, let's bring her in. Take her from a job, a good job she have, and bring her in a politics, and make her be a Senate and education and minister. No fucking body vote for her. So what you want to tell me, say? Just a unpick. Just a unpick. One of the set of blood clot piece of shit over there.
Mr. President, I would like to remind everybody about September 3, 2025. On that day, Jamaica judged the work of the government and its commitments for the future.
You saw the people are lying wicked. Which work? Look at money with them promise people, you know, PKS, you know. People are going money to go here for 3 days. And can't get a fucking penny. It all the chaos. And you them people come and talk. Who them a talk to? Sensible Jamaican. Them thief election, I know them coming a lot of fucking fuckeries and things like that. Because I don't see them do nothing. Besides them hold on for the money, same speed. People still on a tarpaulin, whatever you want to call it. People still suffer. The place that the people them live still look like a World War III. And World War III not come yet, you know. But when I say that, it just shows you how that rascal look. Because this is like a World War III. Because look how long hurricane gone now, to be truthful. Any country, democratic country, want to clean up nice already and looking good and people are really comfortable back. Look at them as storm and flood where up in England all the while. And people this in place. House wash away. Them lose a lot of things. They must vacate and come back. And now them still everything back in order now. Them people, them Jamaican people not saying not yet, you know, but they just come and listen. Not Jamaican people, sorry. Them labor right fucking supporters there. Them not really, them just bend and fucking one-sided, one-minded and everything. Yo, and the fucking ball me a fuck.
The people's decision was clear and unambiguous. The Dr. Andrew Holness-led administration was to continue delivering on its agenda. Mr. President, the people of Jamaica gave us the green light again.
Nobody don't go no fucking green light, man. On a teeth it. But people give you green light. Don't teeth, you stole the election, you stole it. But that's how it going in our country now. You only not the first person, or the first government, or the first people gonna steal an election anyway. It happen all the while. In a certain country, people keep on until them get toppled in at the end. Marcos used to do it, him get toppled, him have to run away. A lot of them have to run away. So you can go on, but come people give you green light. Which green light? Man look like Humpty Dumpty brass clad auntie.
The campaign we ran was mature and dignified.
Yeah.
We focused on our plans and programs. We took to the streets, town centers, community spaces, and the nooks and crannies of Jamaica, and we brought our results and achievements. We did not cower from scrutiny. On the contrary, we brought our results directly to the people. In the weeks following, we unveiled the most comprehensive, most ambitious manifesto in Jamaica's history.
I saw that woman there, saw them people are really wicked and lie. Them come up with the manifesto and they never read out the manifesto before the election and then hold on upon it, you know. It's only opposition Mark Golden come out with the manifesto. Them come out with them write the manifesto and they never come out and do nothing with it. They only write it. The only thing Andrew Wallace do is that the half a tree road that give out Brassland pamphlet in the middle road. And meanwhile, them have the manifesto and tell you what go on. And when Mark Golden come out, I see when I come talk about manifesto, them people are really dry eye lie, you know. And sometimes them blood clot Labour people, they see them beat the bench and the supporters, them why? Sometimes this come like it's a comedy show, you know. Yeah, man.
I recall the naysayers who said it could not work. They said it would not be able to be implemented. But the electorate knows our character, and they entrusted us with the reins. Less than 60 days from election on October 28, 2025, Jamaica faced down Hurricane Melissa. Through the grace of Almighty God, we were spared the worst. It could have been worse. We were bruised, but God still protected us.
You're fool.
More than approximately 50% of 2020.
You're the one a fool and them dunce and idiot. She said Jamaica was spared the worst. So what kind of worst Jamaica did spare? Look what the blood clot hurricane do. This is one of the worst hurricane and she said Jamaica was spared the worst. What the fuck she saying? I said, yeah, let me try to show you. See, when them fucking kingdom of fall, them run out of steam. Them all shoot themselves on their own foot. The woman said Jamaica spare the worst. Because Melissa the worst, hurricane never come a blood clot, category 5. So how Jamaica spare the worst? Look what happened down at the fucking west. Eh? But up there, yo. No, sir.
24 is GDP gone.
But we dissect, you know. I'm just trying to show you all them blood clot people are idiot. Jamaica spare the worst. And this is the worst hurricane. Look what it do with Jamaica. Fresh in a people eye and mind right now. And this is what I'm going to talk about. Jamaica spare the worst. So it's like what she said, Jamaica speed the roads. That means say the hurricane never too bad then. Me not understand what she say. To be truthful. Me don't know what kind of argument that she based upon. But because pressure reached them, and you see them send out them little clown here, she and the one named Rasclad, old tanker, Marlon Morgan, that big old tanker, but smelly bad. For you see him, he's just like a big, you know, corrouption and got blood clot bust him belly, you know. And them look at thing of them people that send out now to come try for, because them not the government, them in a minister not have no blood clot, more ammunition, you know. So them a try if Rasclad play catch up and think them can write out something, give them to come talk, and think so them can save the day. Them can't save no fucking day. They already gone already. Can't save what
The
day.
scale of the challenge before us escaped living memory. We're in unprecedented water, Mr. President. Yet, we are rebuilding towards resurgence. Mr. President.
Oh, God.
Mr. President, this administration is not in the business of making decorative promises. We're in the business of performance. Too often, Mr. President, in Jamaica's days gone, manifestos were treated like campaign poetry, fanciful words to be recited in one season and forgotten in the next. But again, the government led by Dr. Andrew Holness has taken a completely different approach. We made commitments to the Jamaican people. We have sequenced those commitments, and we are now translating.
Yeah, make commitment, yes. Let a commitment. So what are they? What commitment come true or fall true? So when there's a committed blood clot government, then people are really in a sense still, you know. Because I don't know who them attack, if a sensible people don't attack like that. Because we don't see nothing happening. Pure chaos. They don't want to talk about the blood clot, Cuban doctor, them were gone. And all the people are going to suffer. No. People are starting to get blind because there's no rascal where in Jamaica you can get eye service where we can look after your eye. Right? Without them pay a bag of money. And them not have it. Look, you know, so me have some blue comb in one of my eye. And when we go to my GP, because people get tested, we get a test, you know. We can't just go into a GP and get good treatment and good tests, you know. That Jamaica, you know. So anyway, we get a little, the man look at my eye and say, well, let him see a little bit of glaucoma. And him blood clots, he said to me, he said, well then, boy, I'm so weak now. You have a little bit of glaucoma in your left eye. So it's good to me catch it early. Right? And from me diagnose with that and start to get treatment. Me get so good treatment. Me get every fucking 3 months, me check my eye. And then go through all the tests in my eye, the pressure, and then look down at your rascal, weigh down your eye. And you get it every rascal 3 months. You get your letter. And you go, and you spend about 40 minutes, go through all the tests them. And your eye, my eye is stable. You get your eye drop and you use your eye drop. And you know if your rascal know to really get your wet flannel, and wet it with hot water and put it over your eye for a while, and that will really help the blood circulation better. So those are treatment. So when Jamaican people don't have them things, you know, and you come little Humpty Dumpty auntie, I come to these fuckery. When nobody when I see nothing, you can't say, well then, yeah, people have benefit from that. Because at least if the Cuban doctor, if they did fight and make the Cuban doctor them stay and fuck America, just like what Manley do, and stand up on their feet, that means they don't stand up for the Jamaican people. But no, when let down the Jamaican people on a bunch of piece of shit, over this. Yo, you can't fool nobody around us, man. Go away.
Putting those commitments into action.
Fucking go away. Watch out.
I came here today.
Come with a blood clot bag of note. Who write it here? I don't know.
And I can already show how many of the things in here are already being done.
Show one, no?
Already being done.
Show one. I tell you
We
one.
built 6 new STEAM schools. And this budget has provision.
6 new STEM schools. You know, from Andrew Wells, I talk about that from fucking 2017. Early 2017. He's going to build 6 new STEM schools. And now at 2020, blood clot 6. And then and not one black go up, not one school bill. And you should come up with the same thing. No. So I tell you, that's what I said the other day. This government just repeat. Mr. Lambert come out and say the same thing today. They just repeat. Because what kind of fuckery is this now? Andrew Wells come out 2017 and say, well then 6 brand new, pay a big talk, them talk all the while, you know. 6 brand new STEM school. And all now not one fucking bill. And now she come back with the same thing again. So what kind of fucking politics them people are really play? They play people. They just play for staying in the game, you know, for thief money, you know, and staying in power, you know. And this is supposed to be mashed down. We can't allow it to keep on because it's fuckery, brother. Jamaica mash up. Jamaica mash up. And it's all in the name of corruption. Why them behave like this? Because them can't run a natural government without transparency and make the thing run smooth and people can see benefit. But no, them fuck up everything, mash up everything, and then they come and them dress up like blood clot. We don't know, you know, some masquerade sometime. Because she look like a masquerade. Right there, so. Yeah.
Johns for the undertaking of the first 2. Mr. President, we said we would create stronger pathways from learning to earning. And now we're doing exactly that through the tertiary LEAP program, and I'll speak about that some more. We said we would expand access to skills training, and we're now advancing one of the boldest steps in that direction for Jamaicans. We said we would modernize apprenticeship, and now Apprenticeship 3.0 is taking real shape. Mr. President, we also said that youth advancement cannot be separated from the reality.
You know, say if we don't open back the Jamal school, at least we can say, well then, but nothing that them do. They abolish it and them keep people them dunce, them feed them people. So if you really come now and say, well then, all right, people need to get education, people need to fucking get knowledge, because in them time, all right, you know, technology, people, yeah, a lot of people need that. We never come back with that, you know. We can give that different version if we don't want to name it the same way as the PNB to name it, because we know as some fussy, right? We don't feel good if we really say, well, then we bring it back. But bring back something. Because I hear a woman on the Westland another day with a little blood clot baby dead when they kill a 3-year-old. Attack say, well, then 75 at West Kingston youth them can't read. All these things. And she a ball out and tell the news brother, say, well then look, she want a school, them supposed to build a school there. Where Desmond Mackenzie there. Some kind of school wanted down there, so because the youth don't have nothing to do. And them fucking leech and take time, drift in the wrong company. Because they don't have nothing to do to keep them occupied. Boy, me don't know, you know. Me don't know. But it's like sometimes when we listen to people, man.
Realities of adult life. It cannot be enough to prepare our youth and then leave them locked out of housing, stability, and independence. Our manifesto promised an increase in allocations for NHT, for example, and an advance. And I know my colleagues will speak about that more. That's in the manifesto. The same is true for essential public sector workers. We said that teachers, nurses, firefighters, and members of the security forces would benefit from NHT mortgage interest reductions. And they're all done and are all in our budget. It's not just talk. So, Mr. President, people are at the center of our administration's agenda. Jamaica's greatest asset has been and will always be our people. And with our people being our greatest asset, education and skills development will sit at the heart of our president. Now, unfortunately, I only have 30 minutes, but I have to respond to Senator Cleveland and your note on young people. I note your point on young people wanting to leave Jamaica. And I'll say to you, that was the experience I had and my colleagues at university had. I went to university, I started UWI in September 1998, in the middle of the 18 years of devastation. And listen, especially after your 18 years, I will tell you, my classmates that were in the economics program at UWI and in the other programs at UWI, the majority of...
All right, and write something and tell PLI, you know, forget some points, you know. I know which kind of points am I looking at, because if you got a university and you say your colleagues do this and your colleagues do that, you don't need to read it. You're supposed to just talk it if something is true. You fucking idiot. So them things, me dissect some things and look on it and people say them only so fucking boo-boo. If you go to college and a university with somebody, and you're a friend, and something happen, and you go talk about it now, why you read it out? Why you read it? Somebody write it. So how can that be true? How can I want to be trusted? Because if me go to school with somebody and me know when them go through and things like that, right here and lately, me I go just talk it out of my fucking head and me know exactly where. I'm not supposed to write it down and I read. That means that somebody give you read and a lie on I tell, man. Go sit down, man. To fucking lie, man. What are them blood clot people, man? Eh? You want to blood clot shut herself in and one fucking foot right now. Just listen to her.
Of my classmates left Jamaica. Why did they leave Jamaica?
Listen to her and watch her eyes, or she read or she say, you know, and that's something where she experienced. So if you experience something, or you read from a note, you piece of shit, you know. Take the blood clot if you feel
Jamaica because of the policies of the PNP. And I'm talking about back when I was at university. Now let me tell you, when I left this country to go to the
Watch her fucking face. I can't see a lie she's telling her. She's just nervous and there's no truth to them people, you know, brother. The whole of them is a pack of fucking liar. Why, I mean, them people, if a woman them come from, I don't know. Have them a really true Jamaican. Yo.
United States to study economics and international relations. I had to talk about the Jamaican economy. And I always felt embarrassed about where our economy was, why we weren't speaking in positive terms about our economy. That was 2000.
Fucking liar, blood clot, man. Go sit down, man.
Our country
Pay a fucking shot, you know.
Of an economic basket case.
Pay a fucking shot.
Today, if someone leaves Jamaica and goes to study in any of the universities I would have studied in, they can hold their head high. And why can they hold their head high? Because of the policies of this Andrew Holness-led administration. Our students don't have to hang their heads in shame when they hear about the Jamaican economy. In addition to that, we're talking about youth. I'm just responding, and I wish you were my student back in the day. I wish I had you as a student. Youth unemployment in 2015 was over 30%. The last set of data we had, youth unemployment was at 10.6%. And if we look at the numbers in the United States of America, if we're looking at the numbers in foreign, their youth unemployment rate is at 10.8%. We're at 10.6%. Those are the kinds of numbers we have to talk about. When we talk about including youth.
Rosa Anti-Dana.
With Youth Advisory Council. The Youth Advisory Council is with me. They're sitting down giving me policy advice on a regular basis. On Wednesday, I was at the University of Technology. What were we doing there?
So what did have to do with blood clot Jamaica?
How the budget affects young people, and they were able to find for themselves the things in the budget that were really very much wonderful for them. In addition to that, in terms of young people, we see that reservation that's carved out for young people under the NHT, for those who are under 35. That came from the Youth Parliament. It was our administration that listened to these young people and increased that reservation.
Peer focus shot talking to
and I'm
people.
sorry I have to use up my time, but
Lip
I have
service.
to say these things.
Lip
Young
service.
people asked for help to start more businesses. And we've done that. We have a Tools for Trade program now. Anyone who does a trade program in Heart will get a grant that they can use to purchase their tools. Also, they wanted help to start their business. And we have grants, not loans, grants that we give to anyone, especially if you are a level 4, for example, and you did a STEM-related area at Heart. We give you $300,000, no questions asked, for your equipment, so that you can start your life and start a business.
Lip service.
And Mr. President, I could go on and on. Could go
Lip
on
service.
and on about young people. But I had to deviate from what I was going to say to note that. I also want to speak just very briefly, Mr. President, on NARA. And I know my colleague, Senator Keith Duncan, would have done some, but I just wanted to note something. The bill is going to come to us in the Senate. The bill is going to have all of the details around NARA.
Bill
We
can
will be
eat.
able to debate it at this time. I think it's disingenuous to say that we don't see anything around NARA when we know that there is a bill that is going to be coming. And the other part of it too, in terms of NARA will be time-bound. The Prime Minister has noted that. It will have special powers around it. And this is important. This is very important. I think both our sides agree that it's too hard to do business. It's too hard for investors. We all agree. And so, given the scale of the problem in the West, we have to give this body extraordinary powers so that it can act. But as we do that, it also gives us an opportunity to see where we could actually overhaul the entire system. And that's really a good way to do policy making, where you know you have an issue and you say, all right, I'm going to try to fix this issue and I'm going to change the rules around dealing with this issue. And as I do that, I can get evidence that this actually works, and then I roll it out across the whole system. That's the way you do good policy. And so that's what we will be doing in NARA. But also in terms of young people not feeling the new Jamaica. Our Prime Minister laid out something that was beautiful. It was a masterclass in that vision for Jamaica. It's the kind of vision that our young people want to hear. They want to hear about Jamaica and parts of Jamaica looking like Brickell. They don't have to go to North America to feel that they're in a first world country. And our Prime Minister, he went around the entire country. When you really internalize that, and the money is in the budget too for it, for the start of a lot of these, and these aren't going to be done 1 year. These are going to be done over the 5-year period. 5-year period. And so, from Black River,
we're not going to blood clot 5 years now.
Heard you. I'll respond.
We're not going to go to 5 years. I can't bet you that.
Vision from the Prime Minister, I ask you to play it back. From Black River, you saw a new urban center. You saw the new boardwalk. You saw all of the new areas that are being filled. The Lucy bypass and the new yachting areas that we will have. We will become a boating center. From the Montego Bay vision, how we are going to redo Montego Bay and have it be definitely the capital of tourism in this area.
Yes,
the
Glenn,
Falmouth
yes.
vision is amazing. That is going to be so different than it is today and much more resilient. We spoke about Portland and all the work that's being done in Portland, from Brown Brook to the boating industry. We spoke about St. Thomas and the new port for aggregates at that port in Kingston. A new Kingston Public Hospital is a part of the...
You see much things they talk about and nothing can done. They were refurbished a hospital from blood clot 2016, 2017, and now 2026. And all nothing can finish. I hear this blood clot masquerade woman come at that. Yeah, I don't know, you know. Them are people.
And we're going to have new JDF facilities in Clarendon. When I worked in government, many moons ago, 15 years ago, and I used to write speeches.
And all of them things we should talk about. What does it have to do with poor people, bread and butter? Start about tourism facility and things like that, or bill and things like that. That will benefit. You know, sometimes I don't know why I bother, you know.
I used to write about pipelines. And Vernon Field was one that I used to have to write my minister about. And it was always in the pipeline. But we are going to expand that runway at Vernon Field once and for all. So, our plans. So the beauty which we're losing in the debate, the beauty that we're losing, there's a beautifulness to this. There is reconstruction which is necessary in the West. A lot of our brothers and sisters have been negatively affected, and we have to do the reconstruction work. But at the same time, what's beautiful about the exercise we're taking on is that we've built in this concept of resilience. We recognize that where Jamaica is, we are prone to natural disasters. And so we can't just build back the West, we have to build in resilience in the system. And that's why there are projects all across the country. So, Senator, there's a lot of thought going into NARA. There is a piece of legislation coming. We will debate it at that point, but NARA is absolutely important. In that bill that you will see something that you noted. We've already thought about it in terms of the list of projects. That will be articulated, it will be approved, it will be very, very transparent going forward. So, Mr. President, NARA is being paired with an accountability structure meant to give the public and international partners confidence in how Jamaica operates. As you would have heard, we're looking at EPOC, that worked, and we have ETOC in the Ministry of Education, and we'll now have JAMROC, the Jamaica Reconstruction and Resilience Oversight Committee. And that will be an independent oversight mechanism for NARA. So, Mr. President, I want to be on the record of this Senate, noting that Jamaica intends to rebuild with discipline, execute with urgency, and modernize the very architecture of public action. When we succeed, and I know, Mr. President, that we will succeed, NARA will serve as the institutional bridge from...
You really look like you succeed with you anyway. Yeah, man. Look like you really succeed with you.
Resilience to resurgence. Mr. President and young people who may be watching, a new Jamaica will be built before our eyes. Jamaica's best days are indeed ahead. Mr. President, I'll use the 12 minutes I have left to talk about education and the budget. So one of the most important commitments, as I said, that we will move forward this fiscal year is the development of the STEAM schools. Mr. President, ground will be broken this year for 2 of those institutions. Ground broken, meaning contract in place. One will be at Bernard Lodge in St. Catherine, and the other one will be at Minard in St. Anne. I can tell you that Cabinet has approved the procurement, which means it went through the entire process, went to PPC, went to Infrastructure Committee, and went to full Cabinet for one of them, and the other one is on its way to Cabinet. So these are not things in the pipeline. These are actually things that have come out of the pipe. They're out the pipe. And so, Mr. President, the pilot also, this fiscal year's budget is also very important and encouraging for our tertiary students. The student leaders of our two of our premier universities sat right there in the gallery and watched as their work crossed a key threshold. It's a beautiful thing. They said they wanted a program. We met with them. We worked through the details. They wrote me their proposal. I took that proposal to heart. We sat there. They've been in negotiations on the program, and the Prime Minister was able to announce it, and they were sitting up there as the leads on it from UE and UTech. The pilot of the Tertiary Learn, Earn, and Prosper program, which is really the Tertiary LEAP program, will provide a pathway for tertiary education into employment by offering paid on-the-job experience for students. So often they say you can't get the job because you don't have any job experience. So what we'll be doing is while our students are studying, they will get these opportunities in private and public sector to work. And they suggested what they wanted the salary to be, and we worked to see if we could really accommodate it. And we're giving them what the university students asked us in terms of the salaries. So this is a big one, and I salute the UE Guild of Students and the UTech Students Union for their work, and I look forward to working with them to implement the program. And we're starting this summer, not in the future, right here. This summer is when we will start this. In addition to that, Mr. President, the Hart NSTA Trust will establish the Western School of Construction. So we know the West was damaged severely, and there are a lot of reconstruction projects there, and we need to have the workforce. So what we're doing, we have a School of Construction in Portmore, but we need to have one in Montego Bay. So we're going to be opening a School of Construction in the West to increase the talent